Well, NGOs also, of course, they are non-governmental organizations and civil society groups have kicked against the NGO Regulatory Bill, which has passed second reading at the National Assembly.
They said it will limit freedom of thought and expression. So correspondent Ola Wakon has details here.
Hashtag No NGO Bill is what these representatives of non-governmental organizations and civil society groups have adopted to kick against the NGO Regulatory Bill, sponsored by Deputy Majority Leader of the House of Representatives, Honorable Buba Jibril. At this national dialogue, participants said they are against the bill, which has already passed first and second reading and is now at committee stage.
When you have legislation that seeks, for example, to require organizations to re-register every 2 years, you cannot but be left asking the question, why would you require me to renew my citizenship of this country every 2 years? So this mischievous clause, which seeks to, every 2 years, to decide who can be deregistered, clearly is anti-democratic.
NGOs must now begin to be seen as development partners, working with governments, working in every sector in the society to bring about growth and development and prosperity and the good of all. NGOs must not be seen as enemies of the state or enemies of the government or enemies of any sector.
They argue that it constitutes a deliberate violation of the guarantees of freedom of thought, opinion and expression.
In terms of thoughts on the bill, we are all unanimous in saying that the bill has to die. It is not fit for our purpose. It negates all international standards around our work. It's against our right to association, our right to assembly.
It doesn't give us a voice. We will be shut down and will not be able to hear our voice. So we need you to get rid of it totally. And then within ourselves, let's sit down, form a quorum and have specific regulations that would not stifle our civil rights.
Going forward, they believe it is high time NGOs began to regulate their activities to curb excesses rather than regulation from the government.
NGOs exist to help the government solve social problems. And so if we do more in terms of trying to clamp NGOs, then we wouldn't be as effective. And in order for us to be effective and do our work, yes, we need standards, but we can do it ourselves.
Civil society itself must now wake up to its responsibilities of ensuring that it becomes legitimate, transparent, and accountable to its stakeholders.
Nigerians look forward to a resolution between the non-governmental organizations and the National Assembly on the NGO Regulatory Bill, which will have a positive effect on the society. Ola Awakon, TVC News, Lagos.
All right, that sets the tone for our discussion right now, what reactions are from the people. But perhaps we should begin this discussion with the definition of what really is NGOs. Now, everyone knows, okay, NGO, non-governmental organization, is a non-profit voluntary citizens group whose goal is to address a social, political or humanitarian issue and operates without interference from government.
Now, the NGO Regulation Bill, which was sponsored by the Deputy Majority Leader of the House of Reps, Buba Jibril, has already passed first and second readings in the House of Reps, like we told you earlier. Now, let's take a look at the highlights of the bill. Establishment of the NGO Regulatory Commission, which will be headed by an executive secretary, will have a 17-member board led by the chairman to be appointed by the president for a 5-year tenure. The board will also enjoy substantial immunity under the law.
Now, the NGO Regulatory Commission will issue licenses to all NGOs and renew such every 2 years. Failure to renew will lead to termination of operations. All NGOs must submit reports to the board of how funds are received from donors and spent. Money spent without the Commission's approval could attract a jail term of up to 18 years. Oh, sorry, 18 months.
18 months, actually.
18 months.
Now, the board will oversee a voluntary code of conduct for NGOs. The code will be operated by a national council for voluntary agencies. The board will license NGOs on cooperation with international organizations. Well, that's the background there and a clear definition of what NGOs mean, in case you're wondering. Now, what we have joining us to discuss this, senior researcher at TVC News, Cyril Abaku. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Do you run an NGO?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. Okay, we needed to clarify that so that, you know, our viewers don't think you'll be biased somewhat. Now, but, you know, some are already saying that this NGO regulatory bill, if it does see the light of day, will only amount to, you know, toxicity and antisocial intendment. Let me use the word of lawyers.
Yes,
I wonder what your take is with this planned bill.
I think I should take it a step further. When you say antisocial, I will say purely anti-democratic on the one hand. And this is not a bill. What we are seeing here is a decree. It is not a bill.
Why is that?
Because it goes against the grain of lawmaking within a democratic environment. It goes against the provisions of the so-called proposed bill are going to put whatever the Nigerian civil society will do under the purview of an almighty organization, which is going to be under the direct control of Mr. President. That in itself creates a military chain of command. So if they say, don't execute this project, you won't execute it. Don't do this, you can't do it.
So it's like introducing regimentation in the entire process.
And when we are having a national debate as to whether immunity for people in government should be or should not be, this law also proposes that there should be immunity for the board. So there are a whole lot of things. There are so many, and of course, Mike, on a normal day, you can look at a law and see the nebulous, vague drafting that without proper legal interpretation, you won't be able to. Even the Constitution has such provisions where one party says yes, another party says no. You're going to have a plethora of such paragraphs in this bill as I'm seeing it. That when it's out, apart from the draconian laws that we're even talking about, when it's out, apart from the draconian laws that we're even talking about, you will have all kinds of unclear and veiled provisions that are going to literally make these NGOs become an extension of the executive power. Now, this is not to say that some NGOs may be acting outside of the good intentions of what NGOs normally, the philosophy, the philosophy behind what an NGO should be doing. But I think that the lawmakers themselves, first of all, are afraid because NGOs in Nigeria have become a threat to their legitimacy, a threat to the very foundation on which they stand to assume the power and authority they have. And what do I mean by this? Let me give a very clear interpretation. If you go to so many, every geographical jurisdiction in Nigeria is under a lawmaker's falls within a lawmaker's constituency, where they go to the National Assembly and take humongous sums of money as constituency project fees. And yet it is NGOs that go to these same local governments and villages to provide pipe-borne water in some cases, to assist health, maternity, this primary health care centers, to give children books to go to school, pens to go to school, so uniforms for them. I think that it's a good intervention from them. Now, many times, you see, even this law is seeking to drag these same NGOs into the bureaucracy, into the red tapes that hinder government from carrying out its functions. This law will successfully and without hindrance carry the NGOs and make them an appendage of government's inefficiency. You realize that
making nonsense of the whole idea of
non-governmental. If you you see, so when you governmentalize what is non-governmental, then you're going to create problems. If you look at the way the bill is also being structured, we're going to have a situation whereby organizations that have willingly, please mark that order, that have willingly and voluntarily come out to say, since those that have a social contract with society are not living up to their billing, we have the goodwill, we have the expertise, we have the competence, we have some experience, and we
have the network.
Yes, and we have the network to source for funds and to bring assistance and succor. If we had a proper understanding of what government should be doing, and if we had a guiding ideology or philosophy as to how we want to pattern our development in Nigeria, what we should be saying is that because NGOs in themselves are, for the better part of what they do here in our climate, an aberration to the existence of government itself. Because what government should be doing is what they step in.
So it means if the government were alive and responsible and responsive, we wouldn't even be having NGOs in the first place.
Perhaps we could have rights groups.
Okay.
But not people that will be providing what government should be, is constituted to do in the first place. We should have been saying that, in fact, in the next 15 years, in the next 20 years, NGOs won't be doing the kind of work that they're doing here.
Meaning that government would have been
stepped
doing
up
its
to the plate. But for the lack of such a vision, for the lack of such proper planning, we are now having to put up, please, and excuse my language, we are putting up a decree that is going to, throw out the baby and the bathwater together. If this bill sees, and this is not the first time that they're going to be introducing it, they brought it the other time and it failed. I think Nala brought it that time. They're bringing it back again. We want to appeal to every living conscience in this nation. The NGOs need to do a lot more. Sit down with these lawmakers and engage with them. I am not opposed to having a code of conduct.
Which they already should have.
A normal code of conduct.
Yes.
You have the police, you have the EFCC, you have the ICPC, to remove the registration responsibility from the CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, to even another organ of government. In broadcasting, we have the National Broadcasting Commission that issues licenses, okay,
and regulates stations. But
normal, if you're going to register, you have to go to the CAC. It's the normal thing. That was why they were,
Come to think of it, the whole concept of non-governmental organization, didn't they always were referred to as voluntary organizations?
Of course they are.
Voluntary organizations.
So, what happened? Where did that transition now happen from being a voluntary organization to non-governmental organization? And, the interventions that you mentioned earlier, the work of the NGOs is even far more, it goes beyond, intervening in providing some of these social amenities that government has failed over time. Of course, what these NGOs do too is to breathe down the necks of this, of government to say,
put pressure on them.
You have not done what you were supposed to. Like Serap came out to say, look, Nigeria has spent 11 trillion on power. We've been paying for darkness.
If not for some of these NGOs, Serap again, for instance, we had a report that went to court and said, federal government, every money you've taken from Abacha, you must declare it. You must put it on a website. You must, without this, if you look at how our democracy has evolved, in the first place, it took some of these civil society organizations to assist in kicking out the military. It's on point.
Exactly. The civil society.
Of course, it took their pressure to get international, pressure on our government, and to, in fact, to get the military out of power. It took these groups. When democracy came, okay, and they have been doing what they have been doing, it is these same groups. If you look at how the elections went in 2015, they were the ones that actually, gave the ground, opened up the political space, and general, whatever happened, they were the ones who were pushing putting pressure on government. They were on social media, they were everywhere. And perhaps even if just for the numerical value of it, the APC then that was outside of government found that, quite useful. But now that they are there, I don't see why we should be bringing up a law that, first of all, it's going to be a big interest to free speech, freedom of, freedom of expression, which is really,
and even association,
which
are really all fundamental rights provided under the Constitution,
which is which is really the active ingredient or the active agent in democratization. Our democracy is still yet to find its rhythm in some way. And the existence of these bodies, one way or the other, are helping to, straighten up the debate. But if you look at what has been going on in the power sector, even in agriculture,
in different sectors,
in petroleum, these are the groups that once news breaks, they have, the experts, and they have some of these people. We run to them even as the media to give us interpretation.
So the real intent now behind this, the call for this particular bill is not necessarily for the good of the society, but for some selfish reasons.
For the good of government.
If it's for the good of government, then it's for the good of the people.
No, but the way it is, certainly, when you say government, you know that everyone has this notion of the government versus us
but we are
and government. But we, or deductively, we are supposed to be the government because the power resides in the people. But the point there is it is government, them, and us, the people. So it is for the good of the government and not the people as it's supposed to be. But what is really the pressure right now in ensuring that, because there seems to be more effort put into this issue of this bill has to go through, this bill has to... What's the urgency? What's that pressure pulling them or pushing them into this right now?
Well, I think that, you know, quite a number of issues can be deducted if you can be deduced, both on the surface of it and beneath the water. But I think that, you know, there is this tendency there's this saying that when someone rides on the crest of, you know, his horse or something to his destination, he no longer finds use for
the horse.
And then he fears that another person could well ride on that same.
True.
Yes. But I think that we cannot even have a particular set of regulations for political operations, for social operations, and for humanitarian operations. Look at what is happening with the IDPs in
Borno.
Yes, in Borno and other places. You can't, if you want to provide a code of conduct for NGOs, the code you give to political operators is not the same code you're going to give to people who are doing humanitarian work.
Exactly.
That's why this law, ab initio, must be fought. And I think that it is important that the NGOs and CSOs need to, I think they need to take a step back and understand that their responsibility themselves is primarily to the Nigerian space, to the Nigerian society, and not particularly to any government. No matter how sympathetic you want to be with it, it is important for them to know that they own their consciences, and that at the end of the day, their duty is to Nigerians and not to any elected officials, which is why...
And that's why they are non-governmental.
And which is why they need to speak truth to power now and make sure that they engage. I would not have expected this sort of bill to have come this far and to be generating debate at a time when I doubt if there was proper consultation with this constituency. Because, I mean, after political parties, the next people that you look at, that you see, is these same groups. It is important for us to, I mean, they need to be brought into the picture, and this conversation has to be, you know, go forward and
it is even expected that when
you get their input into the process, and then I believe that we need a code of conduct, but not what we are seeing here. As it is now, we cannot even have any serious debate on this law. This is a decree.
All right, Cyril, we must thank you very much for giving your insight into this issue, because every time people talk about you're bringing a law about a people, call them and sit down and tell them what you intend to do and how we can work with them. And by that, they will even get the best of advice from the NGOs themselves on how to
We'll leave it by asking the question, who is afraid of NGOs?
Cyril Abaku, senior researcher, thank you very much for coming.